Hello, 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 and welcome to the Bridges and Beacons podcast. My friends, I am really happy that you have found this podcast, and I truly believe with my whole self that this conversation is going to shift something for you. My guest today has been on the podcast before. Daniel Du Bois is a spirit cultivated channeler and teacher who helps people build solid connections with the spiritual world by giving them a strong foundation of self awareness and sense of the spiritual forces around them. Daniel, thank you for joining me again.
Always glad to be here.
I woke up this morning really excited for this conversation. And Daniel and I were speaking just before we hit the record button. Last time Daniel was on back in May of 2025, the podcast was still the Mystic Nerd Squad podcast. So I shared with him that we had changed the title of the podcast and a little bit of the direction, though I feel still the foundation is the same. And what got us really excited is there are so many pieces of alignment in the work that Daniel and I are doing individually in the world and sort of the guidance that we're having. So I think, Daniel, let's start at the very beginning. If someone is listening and they have an attachment to the idea of spirit and magic and people using those gifts, a title like wizard, if they have a sense of that, that is really more based in fiction than fact, what would you want them to know? Would you mind walking us through some basic definitions? Let's start with spirit.
All right. So the way at least I use is like so there's the material world we live in, and then there's the basically the greater universe, if you will, of what we exist in. And that I use spirit to describe that area. We come from it, we're still immersed in it. We're just in a very specialized part of it where we come and we have our experiences in the world. So spirit is just basically the where you live when you're not on the spirit world, like that form you have, your spirit. So you're a spirit having a human experience when
Mm,
you're a human being. So you're part of the greater spiritual world. So anything existing in that greater world is a spirit.
got it. Okay. So, how would you define magic?
Ah, so I distinguish the difference between being spiritual and being magical. Being spiritual is just, your understanding of the connections, even having a connection to the spirit world. But magic is actually working with spirits to do things, to accomplish tasks. That's it. That's the big definition.
Thank you. I love that. I love that because I think it makes it super simple. So, spirit is something that exists that I love the way you described it. We're spirits having a human experience. So we are a spirit, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of who we are in our makeup. And then magic is just using
Yeah.
that ability to tap into your spiritual sense. I love that.
Yeah.
So one of the pieces for me in shifting the name of the podcast was to really take a much deeper dive into leadership and expanding, and I guess in some ways also narrowing what leadership is.
Right.
And as we were talking before we pressed the record button, I really think that part of the importance of redefining leadership is empowering everyone, all people, to
Right.
know that they are a leader. It's not about becoming a leader, you are a
Right.
leader. And self leadership is really a big piece of that. For me, having that connection to my whole self.
Yes.
So, a holistic approach to leadership is recognizing the balance of the human being and the spirit. And then, if I could add a third component to that, I think it would be space and time. I think it would be context. It would be environment. It would be the here and now. And how is this human with my spirit in it being called to lead first myself and then others? Or that could be happening at the same time, too. So you
Yes.
don't have to be perfect and completely aligned to start being a leader. So
That's right.
I think that's super important to me for people to understand because there's been so much overemphasis on leadership being a business term,
Mm,
on leaders being someone like a president or a manager in an organization, a CEO, or someone leading a big mission. And I think it really counts a lot of people out. And I want to count everybody back in. How does that land with you, Daniel?
well, I'm going to premise it like this. It's never been more easier to be a leader.
Mm,
And I'll offer why. So in my own work, right now, like the beginning of the year, and we talked about this on the podcast, right? Know yourself, be yourself, love yourself, add it on, show up for yourself. And just doing that on its own, the byproduct of that trickles that goes to other people. So you don't even have to directly say, "Hey, I'm a leader," like you were saying. Like you can just be who you are and show the example.
mm,
And we're actually hitting a time where we'll call it the first wave. The first wave of people who are actually stepping up and actually embodying that. Well, they're the first wave of leaders for everyone else to take as an example, and then the next wave and the next wave. So yeah, kind of in waves. But yes, it's never been easier to be a leader right now if you allow yourself. Like
mm.
the stars are aligned for this right now.
Yeah, I think that's so valuable what you said. And so many people are starting to wake up to their individuality, their authenticity, to their gifts, whatever they may be, spiritual or just skills that come
Right,
easier to them. And so much of our life experience and education is geared towards productivity and what you do
right,
in the world. And it has been more comfortable, I think, for many of us for people to fall into easy to understand boxes.
yeah,
And that conventional kind of approach towards growth has made so many of us feel like we didn't belong.
right.
And our separateness has been a pain point, maybe even trauma with a lowercase or capital T. So I think the idea of us embracing who we are as individuals really gives us the permission to take a deep breath and just be who we are naturally
Right.
and shed a lot of the conditioning that has, come layer upon layer like an onion to
Yes.
make us more palatable for society.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, so because Wizard, because Chandler and stuff like that, what I've been doing on the podcast is for since the summer began, like late June, starting July, what we've been doing is we've been channeling spirits on it, but the stories behind the spirits are being changed. It's
Mm,
actually time, and this goes into your personal life. It's time to drop the old stories that are not working for you Like we've
Mm.
had spirits come on, and it's like I know at this point I'm supposed to be A,
Hmm.
but really, right now the way I'm working is B. My story has changed. Like the metaphors and the stories the spirits are using are changing because the old ways of doing things have now either become too cluttered. I called it cultural pollution, but they become too cluttered. They're not wieldy anymore. We can't use those paradigms. So they're actually
Mm.
going for a refresh. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Let's get rid of all the stories that were added on and then be who we were meant to, or be who we were or who we're supposed to be for what we need to do to get rid of
Mm.
that clutter that's getting in the way. So when I say it's easier now to be a leader, it's because now everything, at least in the spiritual world, is set, well, actually, even in the material world, are setting things up for you to make your own story. Like social media can be a bad thing, but it's also giving everyone the opportunity to post their music, self-publish, blog, say their opinions. It's actually never been an easier time to step into your own leadership and put that out there to help other people. So I want people to be encouraged by that. Like, just take the story away. Yeah, there's a lot of things happening, censorship and whatever, but in all honesty, you also still have that opportunity to express yourself and to bring about the changes you want to bring about. You just have to basically say, okay, this is what I want.
Mm. I that I think is so vital for people to embrace that you can just let all the stories go.
Right. And but it's in the spiritual world, they're asking you to do it
Yeah.
because our old stories are too polluted now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, and um I'll admit that I'm such a mystic nerd. I get so excited to learn about different aspects of spirituality from people. It's one of the reasons that I enjoy this podcast so much because I get to connect with people like you who can kind of give a little bit more context and information and experiences. Um, and I can learn more quickly about all of these things from the human experience
Right.
of using those tools and embodying those practices. And I think about um, friends that I've made who work in the Akashic records,
Right.
and our soul has a whole book of stories
Right.
that we also come with those karmic pieces. And I totally hear you, listener. If you're listening and you're like, please don't tell me about karma, like past lives and everything, I think it's a little less sensational than that. I think if you sit in stillness and really put your hand on your heart and breathe, you can feel yourself. You can
Right.
feel yourself. Even if you've never done that before, um, you can step into. I love the way that Eckhart Tolle speaks about it, like being the watcher, observing
Right.
yourself, right?
Mhm.
And that is you. That is you, not the human being who's out and doing the things they do, but the inner you, the spirit, the soul. And what's to me is really important about that is we have an opportunity, if we're alive right now, to really start and heal some of the
Absolutely.
old paradigms and stories and conditioning and expectations in the world, and heal not only our individual selves, but our collective selves and generations past. And
Yeah.
sometimes when the work of embracing individuality and authenticity feels overwhelming, I like to step back and recognize that I'm not just here for me and my soul. I'm here for the future, for humanity in general, for serving the planet, for building equity, for improving values and more love in the world, because I think that's the
Yeah.
true healing property and value. Um, but also for those who came before us who didn't get to finish the work that they
Right.
were really meant for, that we're doing some of their work as well. And I think releasing those old stories and having it be really more like, just I'm stepping out of this costume, I don't need it anymore.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be um a 9 month journey of pain and sweating it out. It could really just
Right.
be a mindset shift of, I'm not doing that anymore.
Absolutely.
And I don't have to make it have any meaning anymore.
Well, that's the thing, right? You're right onto it. There's no having to go to a temple retreat, in Kathmandu or whatever, in Himalayas for like a year and do a vow of silence. It's just really literally just introspection
Mm,
and really wanting to be who you are. Like that's really it. It's the because everything in the spirit world is set up for that right now. In fact, the spirit world is aching for us to do that as a species because we've become so detached from who we are. So yeah,
mm,
if right now this is your prime opportunity to jump into it, or it's the time is at least starting. I think we're hitting the age of Aquarius or something, and that's part of it.
mm-hmm,
But yeah, like we're literally geared right now for it.
mm-hmm.
If you want it, it's there for you, you know?
Yes.
Like even societally, right? We're seeing it. Norms are being broken all the time. The stories are being broken down, whether we participate or not, because other people are doing the work. So we can take advantage of the work other people are doing it to do for ourselves, which will then be something that other people can use. So we're like, it's the ideal time. I
Mm.
cannot express that enough. It's the ideal time. So if you're looking to do it right now, please start doing it. The stronger you feel it, the more jump into it.
Yeah. I can sense from listeners who will catch this conversation a little bit of like, but what do I do? Where do I start? How do I do this? What is the practical nature of what you're talking about? What is one way they can start?
Right. So I'm starting with the idea of take care of yourself, take care of your nutrition. That's what I'm starting with. I'm piloting a eat like a wizard experience right now. So and then later on I'm going to move on to move like a wizard to get physical activity brought in. But yeah, right now take care of your health. That's the ease. That's the once you start that and your results start to show, people will be curious about you. What did you do?
Mm-hmm.
It's you don't have to go out into the world. You just look at yourself. What do I need? Even just doing the research into what you need will bring you help because you'll see how the body works. You'll see why we need certain nutritions, and how to get it. And and just because what I'm doing in mine is also the mindfulness and the respect you pay to your food.
Mm-hmm.
When you eat, you're ending someone's story,
Mm-hmm.
or you're in the very least putting a big dent in the story that they have to recover from. So no matter what you do, there's a sacrifice to someone else, right? To another living thing.
Mm.
So the more you learn to be mindful, the more you learn to be respectful of the food you eat, and therefore then start doing the best quality, you can then reduce your need to consume like a mass consumption,
Mm.
right? We can reduce that. And then that strain, like even though we have to do it to live, at least we can reduce the harm and the strain we're putting on everything else in our environment and in our spiritual environment. So
Yes.
I actually recommend starting with that. But you can do whatever. Remember before I said, right? When it comes to magic, right now you can if it's the power that Pikachu is if it's the power of Pikachu that compels you, and it's the power of Pikachu that compels you, right? Whatever you're focused on, whatever captures your imagination. I'm just starting by adjusting how I eat.
Yeah, the words that came to me when you were talking about nutrition is conscious consumption.
Yes, absolutely.
And what I really like about those two words that popped into my head is that it can apply for sure to food, to nutrition, to what we eat, and having some presence with what's on our plate, where it came from, who sacrificed for it to be there, and
Absolutely.
not over consuming not just from a sense of, I think the story around overconsumption is, well, you don't
Mm.
want to eat too much and then get fat, and then you're going to have diabetes and joint problems and etc. But more so because consciousness, being aware, being thoughtful includes being aware of when you're over consuming. You're
Yes.
taking more than you're giving, and sometimes our giving can just be thanks,
Right.
appreciation, thought, even thinking, where did this come
Mhm.
from? So I love that. But I started to think, if we shift into conscious consumption and we think about what's nourishing us, it's not just the food that we eat. So
Absolutely.
maybe it's, what else could it be? I have so many things I want to say, but I want to hear your perspective on
Oh,
that.
well, even when it comes to food related, I start off with it's not just what you put in your mouth, it's what you drink, it's what you breathe, what comes in contact with your skin. Because anything that puts anything into your cells is you nourishing yourself. So
Mm,
be mindful of where you are, what you expose yourself to. But
mm,
you're right, that conscious consumption goes beyond that kind of nourishment because you also have your psychological and your spiritual nourishment. So if you
mm-hmm,
go out and consume buying products or even the literature you read or the movies you watch or the news you listen to, and it's all basically psychologically and spiritually toxic, you're not nourishing yourself any better either. So you do have to be conscious in that way as well to what you're doing and how it affects you or how if it distracts you from what you're trying to do, right? Like famously, we all can like look on our smartphones and see our screen time.
mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that your smartphone is not an amazing tool because it is, but it's remembering to use it as that tool and not just letting it basically, well, nanny you, right? Like entertain you, do all the things you need when those are things you should do for yourself. I
Mm,
mean, even using like AI is amazing. It's a good tool, it's a good assistant. I have nothing against that, right? Especially for people who I liken the example of a photographer. Photographer may not be a good painter, sketch art or something like that, but because they still have the skills to see, oh, this is the right angle, this is the good moment to capture, this is the light. So now they have a tool that lets them do that, even though they can't reproduce it themselves on their own. So AI is the same way, used properly and used as an assistant, as an enhancement to you, it's good. So I'm not here to poo-poo on any technology and stuff like that. What I'm saying though is that you are still in the driver's seat. So you still have to look at what you consume and how it affects you.
mm,
So yes, so it expands beyond just your eating. It expands to how you interact with your environment, who you allow in your environment, what words you allow in to affect you, what messages you allow. So yeah, it's all about being
yes.
more conscious of what's happening around you and what you're bringing into yourself, how you're
Yeah,
nourishing yourself overall.
absolutely. I definitely agree with you. I see how it's so easy with the amount of technology that we
Mm.
have and the access we have, and 24/7 you can plug into something going on. I mean, you and I are old enough to remember being a kid, and like there was a point when there was no more TV available. Like it
Right.
was just like
Yeah.
it was either static or like those
Yeah.
rainbow stripes, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, there's
National
no more
anthem, and
TV.
then the day's over. Yeah.
That's it. That's all there is until tomorrow morning. So I think it requires us to have so much more discipline around what we allow ourselves
Right.
to do. And there are so many habitual and unconscious patterns that we have. Um, and pausing to recognize why we're doing what we're doing and what's guiding that. So I
Yeah.
love the example of AI because I agree with you. I think
Mm.
it's neither good nor bad. You're either
That's right.
using it in a resourceful or unresourceful way. And it can be a fantastic assistant to use as a tool in your toolbox. Um, However, uh, it doesn't need to be a crutch
No,
or
and that's the
it,
thing.
yeah. So it's really consciously recognizing when I'm reaching for chat GPT, why am I reaching for chat GPT? What is this going to afford me by doing this? And I
Right.
think we could apply the same thing to I'm going on to Instagram and I'm scrolling on Instagram. Why am I scrolling on Instagram? Am I scrolling purposefully because I want to connect with like minds? I want to find things that inspire me. I follow human design. So in human design,
Mhm.
if you're a generator, you need things to respond to. So
Yeah.
sometimes it helps me to get onto Instagram or LinkedIn or whichever social media you use, Substack, and just find things to respond to. And I'll also say a caveat, and I started doing this years
Mhm.
ago. I have really looked at my social media and cultivated my feed. So you can remove, hide, delete the
Right.
things that don't resonate. So there are times when I go on with the specific intention to delete things that don't
Yeah.
resonate or hide people or unfriend. And that is actually really good self care because
It
then for
is.
those unconscious moments, so people would laugh. I've probably mentioned it
Mhm.
before on the podcast, but literally, I go on Instagram and it's a combination of doctors talking about perimenopause,
Right.
um,
Yes.
puppy videos, particularly Cavapoos, because that's the kind of dog I have, and inspirational spiritual leaders, people who have thoughts and put up really positive quotes and sources. And so, but every once in a while, there's something that's really not very resourceful. And some of that we have control over, some of it we have zero control over. And so I just have to be like, oh, interesting. I'm not really interested in watching or looking at that. I'm going to take that off of the
Right.
plate.
It is interesting because I find too in my feed when I'll hear people complain like, "Oh my God, it's so toxic." I'm like, none of those videos that you guys are saying are popular show in my feed.
Yeah.
Because I get herbalists, carpenters, artists, singers, you know, like that kind of stuff showing up in my feed. Now I get more people doing tarot readings and witches too, but it's like, but I'm like, all these toxic things you guys are talking about don't show up in my feed because it's not what I'm not consuming it. I'm not looking for it. So
Mm-hmm.
you do get what you look for.
Mm-hmm. And I
Oh,
also
yes.
think for people who are listening and they're saying, "Oh my gosh, they're judging themselves."
Mm,
Also, there's nothing wrong with having curiosity.
right.
I think you have to balance that curiosity. And I'm somebody who is ridiculously curious. I
Mm,
have a 1-3 profile in human design, and the one,
right.
like, I love a rabbit hole like nobody else. I can literally get lost for days in like one idea that I'm diving into.
Yeah.
But the importance for me is um, when I'm receiving information and building my awareness on something,
Hmm.
there's a step that I take, and I don't even think it's necessarily conscious, in very quickly being like, for me, not for me, for me, not for me, for me, not for me, resourceful, unresourceful, and filtering out what in that deep dive have I gleaned that would be valuable for me or someone else. And it'll typically come out as some sort of framework. And then somebody else doesn't have to do that crazy deep dive that I did. I'm going to take it, I'm going to play with it. That's my 3 in human
Right.
design, and distill the important stuff. But it doesn't, the things that I'm super curious about doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily become part of me. It
Right.
just builds my awareness and understanding because that's part of how I operate in the world when I understand those things. And that's how
Right.
I support people in their journeys because I've done a lot of deep dives and I understand big picture. I'm like a big come at it from 60,000 feet and
Yes.
then come back down, and what do we need, what's the tiny little step that one person is going to take.
Right. You bring up a good point. while you were talking, it made me think of so like we have biases.
Hmm.
We have the innate things that we like and don't like. I've said this many times on my own podcast, on other people's podcasts. I have a bias where I'm not the biggest fan of effeminate men, but yet over the years, challenging that bias, I've now seen enough effeminate men who own their power that it's not really an issue for me anymore. It's like that, oh, okay, that's cool, that's fine, whatever, that's you, you do you. But that's a Gen X thing too, right? We were taught not necessarily love everything, but tolerate it. Let the person be who they are, right?
Hmm.
But those internal biases have a reason. And they're not just to pick on people culturally. There's other things like the foods you like, the other things you prefer. So you like in your journey of being more who you are, let that be a guide. But when you start to see it's harming you or harming someone else, then look, what can I do about this? But you have like when I say everything right now is easier than it's ever been because it's so there. Like you can explore whatever you want to explore. Like there's I can't reinforce this message enough. All it is you get out of your own way,
Mm.
quite literally. Put your old stories aside. I hadn't actually intended to loop back like that, but that's what's happening. Like it's
Yeah.
the literally just let those stories go. Make
Yeah.
new ones. Make ones that are suitable to you. Like I said, right? Like again, if the power of Pikachu compels you, that's fine. That's how basic magic is. Like I'm actually currently on the bring people back to the primordial magic, and that's
Mm.
just your connection to spirit, and whatever story you need, and however they need to show up for you, which is why I keep saying Pikachu. If they need to show up to you as Pikachu, that's fine. You don't have to have like this long history of it's Buddha or it's Kali or it's we'll say Zeus or anything like that. Like it doesn't have to be that. Literally nothing. It could be a character out of a book because you're just giving them the opportunity to, in a way, to present to you a narrative that you understand.
Mm.
So part of it is understand that, right? Because the stories are there to help you bridge a gap in your the difficulty we have connecting with our spiritual side. It's also why like even though I don't really need it, I use tarot cards and I use other divination tools because it lets me step outside of myself when I'm getting in my own way.
Mm.
So right now, it's just the time is so there, it's ripe. Everything literally wants you to do it.
I feel that too. I definitely feel that too. I think that's part of what has led me to shift things.
Right.
And there's the story that like you can't rebrand everything in August when you're going to start recording podcasts in
Right.
September. Like rebrand everything everywhere.
Yeah.
And I just decided to ask myself a very simple question. And it was two words: why not?
Right.
Or what if I can?
Mm-hmm.
What if I don't invest any energy in like, should I do this? Shouldn't I do that? Is it going to be hard? Is it going to take a lot of time? Is it not going to resonate with people? I actually didn't really spend a lot of time there. Maybe, a day of like, let me just really think about it. But it wasn't unresourceful, like beating myself up or being like, what if it's
Right.
not good enough? It wasn't even about that. So then it was just deciding. And once I decided, then it was just a list of tasks. And I decided that it didn't have to be about me doing all this work. Instead, I decided to let it be a treasure hunt.
Right.
Let's see
Yeah.
if I can find all the places where I need to change colors, verbiage, pictures, links, and like get excited when I find something that I wasn't necessarily tracking in my brain. I was like, okay, there's the simple things, the website, the podcast site, but then I was like, oh, all my verbiage on Calendly has to change. And I was like, oh, I found it. Look at this treasure here. And now I get to do this. And I think that simple mindset shift really made it surmountable. It wasn't impossible. It was actually easy and fun, and it happened way faster than I thought. And
Right.
that to me is a quantum leap. Like when people talk about that and they talk about it at this crazy big thing, and it's somebody who has spent 10 years in a spiritual journey and they've done all
Right.
the hard work and they've burned the parts of themselves that weren't working. Instead, it was just me saying, I don't think this has to be hard or stressful. I
It
think it
doesn't.
can actually be easy. And then before I knew it, I was like, oh, it's already done. And
Yeah.
I said, I gave myself permission to operate imperfectly. And like, somebody sent me an email and they're like, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but um, the wording in your invitation for the podcast is still the old podcast. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I've been looking for all those little nuggets and you found
Yeah.
one for me. And it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe I made that mistake, because I'm not here for perfection or executing
Right.
with excellence. I'm here for this really moves me and means something to me. And so I'm happy to make mistakes, because not only am I going to learn and improve what I do, but somebody is going to watch me make that mistake and just shrug it off and go. And they'll be like, wait, you could just shrug off a mistake and go. Like, you don't have to get stuck, like you said, get stuck
Right.
in that story of, I make mistakes. I can't believe I did it again. And believe me, I've had those stories in the past in my life, and I decided they just don't fit anymore.
Right. Exactly it. I will throw this out. As you were talking, it reminded me one of the things that came up on the podcast when I was channeling was the don't rob yourself of the joy of being you.
Mm. Quote,
Yeah.
don't rob yourself of the joy of being you. I think we should put that on t-shirts
Mm.
and hats and mugs. Yeah, I really love that. And I think that is a great place to get to. And
Right.
that's kind of the the end product of the work, if you will. If you can get to a place where you just love the heck out of yourself
Right.
as your individual self, as your being, and what you do doesn't even matter. You could do anything. You could follow your joy, what lights you up,
Right.
and not worry that who you embrace as yourself has to do anything. You just have to be and enjoy that.
Right.
I mean, for goodness sake, what would it look like? Just imagine for a minute, if you're listening, close your eyes and just imagine for a minute, what would it look like in your family if everybody was enjoying themselves and who they are and embracing that? What would it look like in your community, in your place of work, in your school, um, in leadership that does exist in the world? Some of the bigger leaders in the world, if they really embraced their own gifts and had joy there, because joy is a high vibe emotion,
Right.
and it's tied into to love. And if you're in a state of joy, you are inviting other people to join you there, and we're not going to cause harm to others when we're in that state.
Right. You'll try to bring people along. In fact, I'll even in another way of even making it easier for your listeners, like I started my podcast to force myself not to hide, to put it
Mm-hmm.
out there who I am, and have to own it. So,
Mm.
and you can tell from going from season one to actually we started season six. It's podcast is only a little over 2 years old because again, right, every new iteration, every new theme, we move a new season. But even I, like as little as 2 years ago, was still denying a lot and hiding. I got to the point where it was like, who do I tell? Who do I usually talk about these things? And I'd see someone I haven't seen in a long time, and I'm like, do they know? Do they not know?
Mm.
It was just frustrating. It's like, who do I talk about this stuff to? Oh, I don't remember. I haven't seen people in a while, and I don't remember what they remember. You
Yeah.
know, and I don't know what people talked about. when I wasn't around in a room. And I'm like, instead of trying to manage all that, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm just going to put it out there,
Yeah.
you know? And so, and I frankly have never been happier.
Yeah.
And going with your point, even people around me are happier
Yeah.
with me. So, yes, it's everything right now is just be who you are, enjoy who you are. You're not lazy if you don't want to do something, you're not undisciplined. If you're feeling it and it looks like that, it's because you're getting in your way right now, or something is getting in your way. So go back and who are you and what brings you joy? Like you took a task, right? Rebranding, and you decided just to enjoy it and do it your own way. And it wasn't a task at all. It wasn't difficult. You're able to do it, right? You've probably had people going, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that much work." Because when we're aligned with ourselves, that's what happens. We have all this energy come flowing because we're not fighting ourselves. We're not interrupting our patterns. It's like with running. When you try to, you know, take short steps and you're running to maximize your distance, that's more work than just doing long strides and going with some energy. Like, actually, I think, a study that just came out recently. It's like, just take the long strides. Don't worry about it. Don't do this little hopping up and down because you want to preserve your energy. That's costing you more. So just be who you are. It just takes less effort. The story is it takes more effort to be who you are, but that's not a story that should continue. It takes less effort to be who you are. Yeah. Joys of
Ugh.
channeling. But yeah.
Ugh. Yes. I was holding back my like, yes, 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 exactly, exactly. Yes, yes, yes. Agreed. And the funny thing is, Daniel, if you asked me like how did you rebrand? Like what did you do? What were the steps you took? I have no idea. I don't even think I did it consciously. I just did it.
Mhm.
And I don't even know. I didn't worry about I have to take all these steps and I have to do this and XYZ. And I just decided it was going to be easy and it was easy. And
Right.
I think that also speaks to the power of our minds. Um, what else was coming up for me as you were speaking is when we're in that state of joy, self-acceptance,
Right.
and slowing ourselves down enough to recognize that balance of caring for ourselves, nourishing ourselves, our nervous system is in a good state.
Yes.
And one thing that I always say as a sensory trained occupational therapist is state is catchy. And that's catchy in a good way and
Yes.
catchy in not such a good way.
Mhm.
Right. And we can certainly see when things get stressful and wild and we can get pulled into the narrative and the stress of like, oh my gosh, all these horrible things are happening. But when we bring our own nervous system into a state of joy and peace and ease and flow, everybody feels that. We
Yes.
actually have, and this is both science and spiritual, we
Right.
have a field of energy around us that's
Mhm.
vibrating.
Yep.
And I wish I had the recall for the study that I read, but it was from sometime in the 70s. There was a group of individuals who got together and I want to say like 2,000 people, something like that. And they meditated on peace in a city.
Mhm.
And they were able to measure the percentages of crime diminished. Things changed because of their pureness in their energetic
Mhm.
fields and what they were working on together. So, as we're resonating and energetically, we're putting out more joy into the world and the environment, our energetic field can grow and get bigger.
Right.
But to me, if we take it back to the term of self leadership, that's part of self leadership,
Right.
managing your energy, your nervous system, so that the energy you're putting into the world is impacting other people.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So listener, if you learn anything from that, it's that you are completely empowered to nourish yourself, to manage your nervous system, and to use the tools that you have, or maybe pick up some new simple tools. Never ever has there been an easier time to do that. You can literally just go on Google and put in nervous system tools and
Right.
pick the one you like. Go on podcasts. I've had some fantastic practitioners over the course of the past few years who have all brought some practical tools. I wrote in 7 books, but the publisher that did these books, and each book has about 25 authors
Right.
telling their stories and bringing their practical tools so we can learn from them. So never ever has it been so easy to find someone that resonates with you, tools that resonate with you, to use them to self-regulate, to nourish yourself. And it's funny to me that we talked about something as simple as what you eat, choosing things that you enjoy,
Right.
shedding old stories. In no part of that does that require you to upend your entire life,
Right.
right?
That's
So
the thing. Yeah.
it's so simple. And I think one of the stories that I would like to introduce is it gets to be easy and fun to
Yes.
lead
Absolutely.
yourself and to move
Absolutely.
forward on your journey. Yeah.
Yes. I second that completely, wholeheartedly.
Yeah. I think this feels like a good place for us to tie up our conversation.
Right.
I'm really excited about all the topics that we covered, Daniel. Is there anything else that you feel called to share with the listener today?
I, you know, I just want to reinforce the idea that it's simple and have fun with it. Be like a child again if you have to. Go to what excites you because everything we do, every time we think we're being like I said, where we think we're being lazy or we think, we can't do it or we lack discipline, it's just because we're throwing obstacles in our own way. But if we just let ourselves do the things we need to do in our own way, how we think we should, how we feel we should do it, sometimes thinking does get in your own way, but tasks will be a lot easier. Like put the ego aside. It has its role, it has its place, but you can't let it overwork. Let it do the work it needs to do and don't overstress it, and you'll get where you need to go. Like, again, it's so easy right now. Like, it's not that there's never any challenges, but it's easier to overcome the challenges when you allow yourself to do it in the way you are designed to do. Yeah, designed,
Mm,
defined. Yeah, that's it. Like, I just want to stress that. I want people to remember that it's not as hard as we're making it out. The stories we're telling ourselves, don't worry about them. Just let yourself be you.
yeah, I love that so much. And the only thing I
Mm,
feel called to add
go ahead.
is it's okay if you feel like you haven't been aligned in your journey.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's okay to do it imperfectly.
Yep.
And you were born worthy. There's no
Absolutely.
efforting to have that. You are worthy. You are important. Your specific design put you here for a purpose. You're designed for a
Hmm.
purpose. And the fun in that is you get to figure out what that is, but the way that you practice that purpose, the way you become the artist in your life and share that with the world gets to be however you want it to be.
Yes.
And you don't have to be like anyone else. And if it feels a little scary to embrace and be yourself because you haven't really ever felt safe to do that, then just take a breath
Mhm.
and start small.
Start at home.
Start at home on your own.
Mhm.
Just find what interests you and just, follow those little pebbles of interest. Acknowledge the things that make you happy and joyful make a list. That to me, that's like a simple first step. Write a list of all the things that you enjoy because somewhere in there is a treasure.
Right.
And what if your life gets to be about experiencing all those joy points
Yes.
and doesn't have to feel like hard work, stress, or striving? Just ask yourself, what if that's the case? And what if there's a whole spiritual team, universe, source, whatever you want to call it, that wants you to succeed in that and is just waiting for you to be ready to accept the support? What if? Just ask
Right.
what if. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be as overwhelming as maybe we feel sometimes that it has to be.
Right. That's right.
Perfect. So, Daniel, how can people connect with you? And is there anything coming up that you'd like to share with the listener?
Right. So, like I said, right now I'm piloting a Eat Like a Wizard experience, and then I'll make that more available. So that's running until December. So in 2026, that'll be available to the public. I'll have it posted on I use Linktree, but I added a Calendly link to it. Like I usually just say either contact me at thinklikeawizard@gmail.com, but I added Calendly for people's convenience.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm actually posting more reels now on Instagram. It's funny because I was actually sharing how I'm doing the experience whether anyone shows up or not, but I do have people. But I pointed out like when you look at signs of my face up close, there's like you can see that there's nutrition issues. So I got to recalibrate that.
Hmm.
So I'm on Linktree with my name, but I'll give you the links to put it in there, whatever. But yeah, so I got Calendly now, so you can book a discussion with me. I'll be putting out more maybe once a month I'll put out like a Q&A call where people can come on board. I'll start that next month. So yeah, there's opportunities. I'm available. Even you can still, if nothing else, contact me at thinklikeawizard@gmail.com. Ask questions if you have any or but yeah, moving forward, I'm going to go up with the actual more practical training for being like a wizard, the whole gamut of it, not just eating, but like general ideas of how to embrace who you are and how to make that spiritual connection. So that's the that's what's going forward.
Awesome. I love that. And I'm so excited for you experiencing the world of reels.
Yes.
I'll say admittedly that's not my strong suit, but I think that's okay. I think it's great. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your candor and for really bringing such a breath of fresh air. I feel like very relaxed after this conversation. For us, it's just really reinforcing the things that we know to be true for ourselves on our own journey. But I think we've really provided the listener with easy, joyful access points to embrace their own experience of spirituality and magic in their own way. And I really invite you, listener, to if you've listened to this whole podcast and
Right.
you really resonated with it and you were driving in your car, washing dishes, whatever you were doing while you were listening, I really encourage you to sit down with a cup of tea, coffee, your favorite beverage in a cozy chair, get your notebook and take some of these topics and journal on them and see what comes up for you. And if you could take the extra step to feed back to Daniel and I what really resonated and what came up
Right.
for you, we would eat that up. We would love that.
Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
thank you for being here. And if I could ask, listener, just a couple more things from you, please share this episode with
Mm-hmm.
people you know would resonate with it. And if you have that extra moment, go ahead and rate the show. Tell us what you loved about it, because the more we do that, the more this word gets out to other people. And I think it's a really special way for people to be able to access spirituality and their self leadership. And if we could get it out to more people, I think it would be super healing and positive for the whole world. So that's going to be my point at the end. Thank you again, Daniel.
Yeah,
And
thanks for having me
we'll
on. I always enjoy being on.
thank you. And we'll see you next time on the podcast. Bye for now.